You arrived by boat. You will have to go back. Please excuse the African video.
We've been instructed to play it in the hope of making you feel so homesick we actually wish to return.
It won't. I desperately needed to leave, and I'm begging you politely to allow me to stay and work here in England, and to eventually become British.
Certainly not.
So you are telling me that I'm going to be deported back to Africa, as I have no legal right to remain here?
Yes.
Is that because I'm not white, or because I'm not a Christian?
Neither of those reasons.
Why then? Your white Christian ancestors came to my country and to over a third of the world, stole our land, and genocidally exterminated the indigenous, including my great-great-grandfather, using guns against his spear. You did the same to other Africans, and to Asians, to First Americans, and to Australian Aborigines. Millions of us. If it wasn't because they weren't white and Christian, why then? Your Bible states thou shalt not kill, but you happily introduced culling policies against any totally innocent person, man, woman, and child, who wasn't white or Christian. You also made no attempts whatsoever to prevent us from dying from your Western diseases. Then, to make matters worse, you, along with other European nations, bribed us to fight wars on your behalf against each other. We had fought other tribes in the past, of course, but not on such an industrial scale. Then you split Africa into colonial nations along mountain ranges and rivers, completely ignoring tribal boundaries, and in the process destroying the best system of government the world has ever known, with our chiefs and our morally decent and wise elders. That didn't matter too much whilst you white Christian men controlled and governed us, but it did, when without even having provided most of us with running water or free universal education, you gave us independence, and your ridiculous first-past-the-post electoral system, in which, if your nation is anything to go by, self-conceited, self-suggesting, self-serving, mainly corrupt bozos vie with each other for votes. A politically ill-educated, ill-informed electorate are persuaded to vote one way or the other, chiefly by excise tax-dodging rich media bosses in return for honours and government contracts. Then those who win and form a government are bribed by chemical, oil and arms companies and certain foreign governments to do their bidding. This breeds discord, especially in African nations, as your first-past-the-post system results in the tribe who wins slightly more votes than the other ones forming a government, which in no way represents the wishes or the needs of the majority. Violent coups and killings follow on a previously unheard-of scale, using sophisticated modern weapons instead of our traditional bows and arrows, clubs and spears. That doesn't bother you in the UK, of course, because you have manufactured and sold us those weapons. If it wasn't for your arms trade, your economy wouldn't survive, and your unemployment would go through the roof. It bothers us, though, as it causes the death and suffering of millions of my fellow Africans, and the desire to move here. I suppose you think we Africans should just be grateful you didn't wipe us out completely, as you did the Tasmanian Aborigine, or push those of us you didn't slaughter into reservations, as you did the first Americans, to die of disease and heartache. No, you let us survive. So your monarchs from Elizabeth I till George II, most of your aristocracy, and even your Church of England could send us in chains in your stinking slave ships to the Americas and West Indies. If we survived the voyage, which many of us didn't, you forced us to work as slaves for no wages on your plantations. If we escaped or rebelled without an iota of mercy, you executed us. Then centuries after your slave trade had begun, Wilberforce and Pitt the Younger and a few of your more enlightened citizens managed to get slavery abolished in 1807. Naturally, you didn't compensate the slaves, but the slave owners, whose despicable families and organisations are still living on the profits of slavery, and that compensation today. It stinks. Incidentally, isn't the main reason abolition got through Parliament after years of trying, because by then the West Indies had more than enough slaves, and you had started colonising Africa and needed Africans to stay and work for you there. If you hadn't, Africans would not have been available to fight in your wars against other European powers, or to be around to mine and steal our gold and diamonds, etc. for you Brits. Then you forced us to learn English so we could understand your orders, as you were either too stupid or too lazy or both to learn our languages, or most other people's for that matter. Don't you realise many of us choose to come here because we still get taught English? Also, you had the brass neck to remove our art treasures, our heritage, to your museums. Not content with that, in order for you to make fortunes from our best agricultural land, you decided you would grow cash crops, such as tobacco and coffee for export. This meant many of us starved for lack of food and are still starving now. And what about our wildlife? For millennia, since man first walked on this earth, we so-called primitive people maintained a complete balance of nature. Wild animals provided we omnivores with our meat. We only took what we needed, and we all flourished. But as soon as you white Christian males came, your kings, princes, alongside American presidents and writers and actors et al., in order to prove themselves and their wives and lovers they were real men, at a safe distance, shot lions and elephants, etc., etc., in their millions with their modern rifles. How could they miss? What danger were they in? How pathetic! And what did they do with them? They cut their heads off and placed them on the walls of their castles and palaces to show how brave they are. Now, because of these pathetic British Christian creatures, our wildlife is so endangered it has to be protected and is rarely legally available to eat. Isn't it because you are a white Christian that you believe you have the absolute right to refuse me the right to live here, even though I came peacefully to this country with no intention whatsoever of raping or killing anyone? Incidentally, in the UK, every single one of you is of immigrant stock, whose ancestors, like us not, violently stole it from earlier immigrants. Pull up the drawbridge, you're all right, and go hang the rest of us, who are suffering still, and have suffered for centuries, thanks to you white, devout, Christian males. What I find extraordinarily puzzling is that even your newer immigrants from Asia and Africa, etc., seem to reject me coming here, sometimes more than you whites, except for those whites who possess facial features very similar to my own.
Don't your grievances against us make you likely to wish to exact revenge on us, and therefore a security risk?
No, not at all. Unlike you Christians, I actually follow my religious teachings and believe in and practice forgiveness and love my neighbour as myself. I believe fervently and sisterly in brotherly love and compassion. I consider you as my brother, and if geneticists are correct, didn't all humankind, if they didn't stay in Africa, come out of Africa? Indeed, you are my brother. I just wish you and your countrymen would accept me as your brother and allow me to stay here. Perhaps you could ask your Jesus what he would do in your position, faced with me sitting here pleading. Isn't it possible he would think you now had a chance to redeem white Christian males for the evil they have perpetrated on my people and so many millions of others over the centuries?
What makes you think we white Christian males believe we have ever done anything wrong and wish to redeem ourselves or have any compassion for others? Certainly our governments, of whichever political persuasion, don't. How else could our ministers in the last century and this one continue our traditions of discrimination? By refusing entry to so many desperate Jews fleeing from the despicable genocidal Nazis? And how could they have supported the ethnic cleansing and genocide in Palestine and taken bribes from Zionist lobby groups to so do? Nor do our churchmen. If they did, how could they sexually abuse a single child, let alone thousands, then cover it up and move the perpetrators elsewhere to continue their evil? Nor do our mainstream media. If they did, how could they be so accepting of the slaughter of so many innocent journalists and aid workers and babies and women and old people? You couldn't possibly become a true Brit. We love us. Whatever we do or don't do, we fervently convince ourselves it is morally right.
I'm sorry, Doctor. I'll go and sort out your plane ticket.